Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I will give folks a little bit more of an opportunity to join us. So wait just a minute or two, probably start at 2 minutes past 1. Thanks for joining us. Going to get started at 2 past 1 o'clock, so just about a minute from now. We might have a small group, but that'll be fine. You'll get more personalized attention that way. All right, it's 2 minutes past 1. We'll get started now. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Jeff Perry. I am the team lead of the DPI Partner Support Team, and this is our breakout session for district administrators and choice administrators, and I hope that you're in the right place. And if you're not, let me know and I can steer you to the right place. What I've done is enabled, by default, Teams does not allow people in these meetings to unmute their microphones and talk, but I have gone in one by one as you've joined the meeting and allowed your microphone, because here's how I envision this session working. Rather than me showing a bunch of slides and just kind of going over things that you may or may not need to know, I thought we could make this an interactive demonstration type of a session where you let me know the apps or the processes that you have questions about, and I can tell you about them or give you a little demo if that would work as well. So I was hoping that this could be more of an interactive session and hopefully one that would be more beneficial to you. We can cover the things that were talked about earlier in the day, like the Wise Admin Portal app or the Wise Secure app. We could talk about the DSA form. We could talk about other things that maybe you have questions about that I haven't thought of that have to do with Wise data and things like that. So I want to make this as helpful to you as possible. So go ahead and unmute yourself and pop a question to us, and we'll let everybody have their say that wants to say, and we'll learn some stuff hopefully. So I'll see what you have to give me. If nobody jumps in immediately, I'll just start with a demonstration of one of the apps.
Hi, Ralph Williams from the Wausau School District.
Hi.
I am a new DSA, I guess, in the last week of having access. So I'm just trying to learn the basics.
Oh, sure. So, were you thinking of the basics of the Y Secure application?
Yes, and
Oh,
just overall what that role would entail.
excellent. Well, you came to the right place. So, Y Secure, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm in the test environment. So, this would be pretend data. We're not going to really do anything to anybody's data for real. Just get that out of the way so you don't think I'm going in and messing with people's stuff. But so what we can do is uh, have an actual demonstration of how the app works, and you can actually see me click through it and get to know how to use it. So when you first log into Wise Home, you'll see Wise Secure as one of your uh, menu items. And this is a very handy app. Our test system is a little slow, so it might take a moment for it to pop up. There it is. So the home screen is going to look like this. And up at the top, we have the different menu items or the different tabs that we can go to. We're going to start with manage security. I'll talk about pending access. I'll show you how you can offboard a user. Um, and how you can run reports to do some auditing of your personnel to make sure that everyone who has a user role is supposed to have a user role. The Manage Security tab is the one of two ways to assign a user role to an individual, and it's the only way to remove. Well, not it's one of two ways to remove a user role. The pending access queue is another way that we can assign a user role, and the offboard users tab is another way that we can remove a user role. When you click on the Manage Security tab as DSA, you're going to have access to every single one of the WISE applications. This list is probably longer than yours just because I'm in the test environment and there's more to it here. I have more administrative things that I can look at and things that might not pertain to you out in the district or in the school. But it will look very, very similar to this. You probably have to scroll down to get to the bottom, and there's quite a list. When you click on one of these links, then you're going to be taken to that application's list of users. So let's use as an example Wise Data Portal, since that is an app that is very widely used. And when you first click on the application, you're going to see a list of every single, let me do something differently. I'm going to actually go into a district. And again, this is test data. A lot of times we use Sun Prairie because that's a test district, a district we have set up that has lots of test data in it. So now you can see the list is probably a lot closer to being what your list would look like. So if I go to Wise Data Portal, I'm going to see a list of all of my personnel that have a role, user role, to use Wise Data Portal. And you can see these are all made up test people for the most part here. So if I want to assign a user role, I can do that by clicking on the blue Assign a User Role button. And I suggest looking for a user by using their email address, because if you use the name, there's the possibility that you'll find someone with the same name as your employee, and they may not be the actual person who you want to assign the user role to. It might be somebody with their same name. But if you search by the email address, you're going to get an exact match, and that's probably the best way to go. So if I search for this email address, I get one return as a result. But if I searched for, I don't know who. Yeah, let's try this. If I search for, now these are weird names. DPI test wise, see, I get a whole bunch of people with that same name, and that's not necessarily what I would want. So that's why I suggest using the email address. You click on the box next to their name, and then move on to the bottom section where it has the role. Some applications have only one user role, and that's pretty easy. You just select that one and hit the add and close button, and you're done. Some applications have multiple user roles, and that requires you to be a little bit more familiar with the app that you're assigning the role to. But we've created these role descriptions that hopefully will help you. And if they don't help you all the way, our customer service help desk folks can help you determine just exactly what role you might need if you have a question on that. The agency role for when we're talking about Wise Data Portal, which is the app that we're looking at here, the agency role is the one that has the ability to do all of the functions, whereas the agency read role allows basically to look but not touch. So the person can go in and view all the information, but they can't acknowledge warnings, and they can't do maybe some of the other things. So we usually advise for your staff that are going to be working in Wise Data Portal for data reporting and things of that nature, we usually recommend the agency role. But if they're maybe they're just an auditor, or maybe they're just somebody who's going to pop in and check other people's work or something like that, you may need the agency read role for that type of a purpose. So when you've selected the person and the role, you click the add and close button, and now we've assigned the user role, and the green message there tells us that it worked. If it would happen to be an orange message with an error in it, that would mean that something bad happened. For example, if I tried to assign the role without selecting the users box, it's not going to let me do that. It's going to give me an error message. So once you've assigned the user role, you can tell the person that you've done that, and they can go in and start using the app. Or the system will automatically send them an email at some point. It won't happen immediately. I think it usually takes around 45 minutes to an hour before it goes around and does it. So you don't have to send them an email or give them a phone call right away if you want to wait for the system generated email to go out. But so that's there for you too. You can also use this screen to remove a user role. And the way you do that is every one of the rows has a little caret that you can click and open it up and see more information. And you'll notice all the way over here to the right is the red remove button. If I click that and then tell them, yes, I'm sure, I've removed that user role. So that's the quick way to remove user roles one at a time. If, though, maybe you have a person who has left their role or has left your district, and you want to remove all of their user roles at once, you don't want to probably go into every single application that they have a role assigned and do that what I just did one at a time, because that would take a really long time, of course. So what you can do is use this Offboard Users tab. And again, I suggest going by email address. Now let me just find somebody that actually has a user role assigned. So I'll search for that person, and then it's going to find every single application that they have a user role for at our district or at our school. And in this case, there's 4 of them. And then it tells you over here what the roles are, just in case that's handy. So if you check the box to the left of the row and click this Review User Access button, it comes up with that list of all their roles, and you can revoke the access like this. Boop. And then all of their user roles are removed. And that saves time. That saves you having to go into each application one at a time and remove all those roles. And what we suggest is that at least once a year, you go in and run a report that shows who at your district or who at your school has been assigned user roles, so that you can review the list and make sure that there isn't anybody on there that is maybe no longer employed there, or maybe they're in a different role and they no longer need an application, or people retire, all sorts of reasons why there might be a reason to not have a user role anymore. And the way you do that is there's this Access Viewer tab over here, and you can run a report. If you just hit the search button when you first come in, you're going to generate a list of every single user role in every single application, which can be exported to Excel. So if you're a spreadsheet person and you want to just slice and dice the data in the spreadsheet and figure out what you're looking at, you can do that. Or you can narrow it down right here on the screen. So maybe you're mainly interested in people who have a user role for the Wise Dash for Districts app, for example. So if I search just for that app, my list is much smaller and easier to deal with. Or you could even get, let's go to Wise Data Portal, and you can even get more specific. You can look at only people that have one particular role for an application if you'd really want to get that, if you really want to drill down that far. And if you generate your list and you notice that there's a person that, okay, this person shouldn't have this user role anymore, then you can either remove it from that app, or you could, if they shouldn't have any roles anymore, you could use the offboard feature and remove all their roles at once. It's a good way to make sure that the personnel that are assigned user roles should have those user roles. And we stress that because we really take the data privacy and data security functions seriously. And we want to make sure that if somebody has a user role to use an app, that they have an educational need to have that role. And as long as they do, and that's your decision as the DSA, that's totally up to you. It's not up to DPI. And that is up to you to decide who should have the user roles at your district. If maybe you work closely with a CISA, and you want a CISA person to have a user role for a particular application, say Wise Data Portal or one of the special ed apps or something like that, that is perfectly fine. You can assign that user role to the CISA person. That is totally up to you. The decision of who gets to have a user role for your applications and your data is up to you. You get to make that decision. But also then we do ask that you make sure that the people that do have the user roles are entitled to have those, and that you remove them if they don't, or if they don't need to have them. Once a year, sometimes twice a year, we do an automatic cleanup of user roles where a user has not logged into the system at all. They haven't logged into any app whatsoever for over 18 months. And we figured if somebody hasn't logged in for 18 months, they're probably not going to log in. We let you know ahead of time before we do that. So we send an email out to all DSAs and we say, hey, we're going to do this on this date, just so you know. And if there's anybody you think might fall into that category that you don't want to be removed, just have them log in, and that'll take care of it, and they won't be captured in the job. So we try to do that just as a kind of a service, figuring that 18 months is pretty long time, and if they haven't logged in that time frame, they're probably not going to be using that user role. We just did that in July, I believe it was, and we sometimes do it also in the late winter, maybe like a February timeframe occasionally, if we but for sure we do it once per year. The pending access queue is another feature of Wise Secure. So when a user goes to the Wise Home menu and chooses request access, they can select, let me go to Sun Prairie since that's where we're at, and put in my job title as a tester. And then let's say I want to request access to the EdFi credential application. When I do this request, an email is sent to you as the DSA, and then also to any application administrators you may have assigned to that app. What's an application administrator, Jeff? Well, I'll show you. Every single application, so in this case, we were looking at EdFi credential, way over to the right has the Assign or View Application Admin tab. And when you click on that button, you can see the application administrator list if there are any assigned for that app. If you, as the DSA, want to delegate the function of assigning and removing user roles for an individual application, you can assign an application administrator and have that person do that for you, either exclusively or in conjunction with you, or however you want to set that up. We want the system to be flexible enough so that it works for whatever workflow you have at your district or your school. And so we feel that the application administrator adds kind of a layer to that, where if you want to delegate some of that functionality of adding and removing user roles, you can do that. And it doesn't have to be an exclusive delegation, but it can be if you want it to be. If you want to delegate every single WISE Secure function across the board, you can ask to have a delegate DSA assigned. And then you don't need to assign an application administrator role for every single app. You can have that person be a delegate DSA. They will have the same functionality then as you in the WISE Secure app, and they will be able to go in and add and remove users for any app. They'll be able to use the offboard users function. They'll be able to use the access viewer audit function, and all of that functionality will be theirs as well. Um, again, trying to make it as flexible as possible so that it works with your workflow. So some DSAs like to be hands-on and like to handle everything themselves. That's cool. Some people like to delegate everything and have other people do everything. That's cool too. And some people have some sort of a combination thereof, where some things they want to do and some things they want other people to do, and that's cool too. So however you want to set that up, as long as it works in your workflow, it's fine with us on our end. Um, the application administrator then, when we're looking at that pending access, or we went in and we requested the access, not only would you as the DSA get the email saying that somebody has requested a user role, but the application administrator would get that email as well. Both of you would then have access to this pending access queue. And so this will show you, now this is the, the test environment, and some of these dates are pretty old. But you will have the ability to use this screen to either approve or reject their request. You don't have to use this queue. But it's there for you if you think it would be easier. You can totally use the managed security screen for everything, and if you want to work things that way, no problem. But if you do want to use the pending access queue, you just click on the review button over to the right of the row, and then you say, you won't have this because I have access to multiple districts. So you'll come right to this screen, and you'll have all the information about the person. So you'll see their name, their email address, when they requested the role, what application they requested, and then you have the opportunity then to either reject the request, and if you hit save changes and reject it, they'll get an email saying that has not been approved. Or if you approve the request, you then can also assign them their user role. And if you want to leave a comment, you can. You don't have to, but you can. So let's say we were going to reject this request, and we could say, you don't need this role, or you don't need EdFi credential, you need Wise Data Portal, or whatever message you'd want to put in there. So when I reject it, oh, this is the test environment, and things are a little wonky sometimes in here, so I apologize for that. But what'll happen when you reject the request is it will fall off of this list, and like I said, the person will get an email. Also, if you approve a request, let me get a more recent one. Maybe I'll have better luck. Oh, there's the one I just did. Let's do that. So let's say I want to approve this, and I want to give the edit user role, and I save my changes. Now, it tells me that it was saved successfully. I go back to my pending access queue. My request is gone, and that person has received an email then saying that their request was approved. If you get the request that the person wants their user role and you do not use the pending queue and you decide instead to go into manage security and assign the role, that's perfectly fine. There's absolutely no problem with that. The only thing is then that request will not fall off of this list, and your list might start getting long. You can always go in and reject requests from this list, and it will not affect any currently assigned user roles. They will get the email, so that you might need to explain that, but they won't. So if you've already approved Amy for a school directory role, and you used managed security to do it, and the entry is still here, and you go in and you reject that, and it'll fall off the list now, but her presently assigned school directory role is not affected by this. All that happened is you just cleared that row off of your list and made your list a little more manageable. But you've also sent her the email saying rejected, so she may come up to you and say, why did you reject my, that was from 2 years ago. And so that's one drawback to it, but you do not. So what I'm trying to say with that very roundabout explanation is you don't have to use the pending access queue if you don't want to. But if you find it handy, and that would be a handy way to manage tasks, you can do that. More than likely, you won't have 76 requests waiting in there, unless you maybe took over from somebody who had a long list. Otherwise, you probably will just have a couple at a time, and it's pretty easy to manage usually. If you do go in there and you find that you have a big list and you don't want to take the time to go in and remove them all one by one, put in a help ticket, put it to my attention. I'll take care of it for you. No problem. Happy to do it. Because, that's pretty time consuming to go in and do those one at a time. So if you do find yourself in that situation, just let me know. I'm happy to do it for you. Any questions? I should probably stop. Stop talking for a minute and allow for questions. So does anybody have any questions about anything related to Wise Secure, user roles, the DSA role, anything like that? I'm going to enable people's microphones that maybe I haven't had the chance to do that for yet. So hopefully that shed at least a little light on the DSA role and how you use that tool to do that.
It did. Thank you.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions? First, just about Wise Secure, and then we'll move on to other topics if people have other types of questions. If you joined late, I wanted to make this session very informal, rather than just go through a slide deck and just kind of talk about things that you may or may not need to know. I wanted to make it interactive and have you ask me questions, and then I can go into the different apps and show you, and just show you stuff. show you how the app works, or show you how a process works, or anything like that. So the sky's the limit here. The only thing I can't demo is the Wise Dash for Districts app. And the reason I can't do that is because we don't have any test data in that app, and I can't show actual live student data in a format like this. That would be a huge no-no. So I can't do much in the way of Wise Dash demos. I could do the public version of Wise Dash, but any other app or any other process, I can do my best to walk you through. There's the ones that we talked about, or that I talked about earlier in the session. If you were in the morning session, was Wise Admin Portal and with School Directory. There's also Wise Data Portal and Wise ID, Wise Staff. There's all kinds of different apps related to the Wise data reporting, and I'm happy to entertain questions on anything. I'm not an expert on every one of them, but I know enough about them that I can probably intelligently answer questions. That would be my would be my hope anyway. So if I enabled everybody's microphone, so all you would have to do would be to unmute yourself, and if you have a question, just do that, blurt it out, and I'll do my best to help you out. Why don't I go through the Wise Admin Portal app? Talked about that earlier in the session, in the morning session. And this is an app that we developed specifically, originally anyway, it was specifically for district administrators and choice administrators, so that you had a one stop shop, like a one place to go for most of the things that you'd need to review or keep tabs on during the data snapshot. If you're brand new to Wise Data, we do a data snapshot every December. Since the Wise Data system is constantly receiving data from your SIS, we have to pick a moment in time that we snapshot that data, or take a picture of the data as it is at one moment in time, so that we can use it for reporting, because otherwise it just keeps changing all the time. Every day it keeps changing. So we pick a date in December and we snapshot the data at that time. In the lead up to that, we do all kinds of answering of questions and reviewing of data and making sure that it's in as good a state as it can be in when we take that data snapshot, so that all the reporting and all the important stuff that goes along with that reporting, funding being one of the biggest ones, but public reporting and reporting to the U.S. Department of Ed and all kinds of stuff comes out of that snapshot. We want to make sure that the data is in as good a state as it can be in when we take that data snapshot. And so we developed Wise Admin Portal so that you as an administrator can be on top of the sort of high level tasks that go along with the data snapshot. The people on your staff that do the data reporting are going to be, they're going to be in the trenches and working on that stuff day in, day out in different apps. But this is a way for you to at a high level, keep tabs on what's going on. And hopefully it's a good tool for that. The landing screen has these tiles. You can click on any one of these tiles and go to that section of the app. So we'll do that here in a moment. The menu at the top is the very same. So if you click on the snapshot calendar here, it's the same as clicking on the snapshot calendar tab there. We haven't had any for a while, but we occasionally put a cyber incident in here. And that would be, this is all test data, but that would be something if there was if we were alerted from the FBI that there was some sort of a cybersecurity related either emergency or scenario out there that school districts would need to be aware of, we would put that information in here. And we would also alert you by other means, but we would put that information in here as well. We haven't had one of those for a while, and usually when we do get one of those, typically they have come from the FBI. So usually that's pretty serious. So that's why we put it in there. But we would alert you in other ways as well. Um, but these tiles, so the snapshot calendar, or what we call the WISE events calendar, is a device that we came up with to put in one place all of the different trainings and other types of events that are coming up that have to do with WISE data, with data reporting. We get information from the different SIS vendors about their vendor conferences. We put those in here. We get information about trainings that are going on in other areas of DPI, like maybe career and tech ed or special education or something like that. We'll put those in here if they're related to the data reporting side of things. And so we try to have this as a go-to calendar so that you and your staff will know what's coming up and how they can take advantage of those trainings. Sometimes they're virtual, sometimes they're in person, but we'll always have them. We'll always have them noted on this calendar, and we have it linked in the Wise Admin Portal app so that you don't have to go to the DPI website and search for this. You can just find it right here from this app, and it'll always be right there. Agency contacts is another thing that we ask districts to verify as we're leading up to that snapshot. And the big reason for that is because we do data quality outreach where we different teams at DPI evaluate and scrutinize the data that has been sent into WISE data. That's hasn't been snapshot yet, but we're leading up to that snapshot. And if we see something that we think needs attention or we think might not look exactly correct, we reach out to the district or the choice school and we say, hey, we noticed this. Could you please take a look at this? Maybe it's the number of economically disadvantaged students, or maybe it's the number of special education students, or what have you. There's a whole bunch of different data points that we might do outreach on. And so we need a contact person or persons to reach out to when we do that data quality outreach. And so if you pop into this agency contacts tab and you see something in there that's incorrect, a person's email address changed and that's no longer their email address, or you have a completely different person in that role now, or whatever, you can start to get the ball rolling on getting that corrected. And we don't do that data quality outreach to try to be a bad guy or to try to, we gotcha. We want to get the data in as good a state as it can be in before we take that snapshot, and so that's why we do it. We're just trying to be helpful. So but we can't do that outreach if we don't have the proper person in that contacts page. So that's why we have that available for you to review. Administrator acknowledgement is something that we ask every district administrator and choice administrator to do prior to the snapshot. And it's basically, there's two different pieces to this. One is to review who at your district has acknowledged and not acknowledged their responsibility for the data snapshot. And so that's depending on the size of your LEA, that could be maybe one person that's in charge of everything, or one or two people, or it could be maybe you have a different person for every single data quality or data category. And so you can review that information here. Again, this is test data, so you can't, there's no names here to look at, but you'd be able to see what's been acknowledged, what's not been acknowledged, and who did that acknowledgement. And that's done in the WISE Data Portal app. And then you can also add then in the app, you can, if you want to allow, there's different things that you need to check that you acknowledge that you're responsible for, and so those are all in here. one of them is immunization data sharing. You can opt in or opt out to that. There is the acknowledgement of the different parts of the snapshot. I'm not going to read through this word by word, but so anyway, that we ask that every snapshot season that you go in and acknowledge that. And again, if you have questions about it when you're in there looking at it, the reason I'm being a little hesitant is I think here in the test system, this might be a little different than what we would be seeing in the actual app. So um, I don't want to start going through something if that's not the way it is when we're not in the test environment. But anyway, that's the you get the gist of it. There are certain things that you need to acknowledge that you're uh, that you're agreeing to. Public districts have access to WISE key performance indicators right here from the WISE Admin Portal app. Choice schools, unfortunately, don't have access to the WISE for Districts app, and so you can't use that functionality. So I'm sorry about that. But for public districts, this could help you at least at a high level to help verify your data. So when you click on that tab or that tile, you're going to be taken out right into the WISE for Districts app. And you're going to see some key performance indicators, some high level data um, that will allow you to just at a glance see whether or not your district is on track with your snapshot data. And it's not coming up here. Oh, there, here we go. I just didn't give it long enough. So we're in the administrator area of WISE and so we have no enrollments yet for 25-26, which is probably not unusual for August 19th, right? But if we were into the into October, November, and you were looking at this, and we had 0 enrollments, that would probably be a cause for concern, right? So this would be a high level way for you to kind of look at um, what your DFS count is going to look like, your October 1 special ed enrollment. There'd be each individual school would be listed here with its enrollment, and you'd be able to see, then there'd be graphs down here. I don't think I can change the school year on this, can I? No. And because we don't have any data yet for 25-26, it's a little less. Maybe I can bring that up in the, 1 second. I'll bring it up in the slide. I'll show you what the graphs look like. Here we go. So we've got graphs that show each of your schools. So we have the elementary school in this case, and the middle and high school in this case. And then we have individual graphs that will show things broken out by, you have an enrollment trend, you have disability status, race, ethnicity, and EL status, for example. I believe there's an economically disadvantaged graph as well. And then you can also look at your graduation rate, dropout rate, chronically absent rate, things like that. Just at a high level glance to see if you're on the right track. Obviously, if these numbers are wrong, then you can use the rest of the WISE tool to drill in and into the data and see what might be wrong and what you might need to look at. We also have local data sharing agreement tab. The map local data assessment is available to be viewed in WISE for districts, but it requires a data sharing agreement with the vendor and NWEA. And so if you want to have that set up, you can do that from WISE Admin Portal. Again, trying to put things in one spot so that they're easier for you to keep tabs on. The STAR assessment is also available to be viewed in WISE for districts, but their vendor Renaissance has a different process that they want you to go through. So because of that, we can't put that in Wise Admin Portal, but it is available for you in Wise Dash for districts if the STAR assessment is one that you use locally. And you don't have to put these in Wise Dash if you don't want that feature. You don't have to do that, but if you would like to take advantage of that, we do have those options available for you. And at least in the case of the map data, you can do that right from the Wise Admin Portal app. And then the final tab is the data errata. So when we go through that data snapshot, once we take that snapshot in December, that data is final and that snapshot data can't be changed. What happens every once in a while is we get past that date and it's realized, oops, this is wrong. What do I do? And so we have this data errata process, we call it, where your district or your school sends a letter on the official letterhead, basically explaining the situation that this total was submitted, but it should have been this. No personally identifiable information is included because these letters are posted on the DPI website. And if somebody is in, for example, the Wise Dash Public app and they're looking at enrollment totals or what have you, and there might be a little icon in there that says there's a data errata letter associated with this data, and then they can click on that and they'll get taken to the data errata information and be able to see that, oh, it says in Wise Dash that the total was 312, but we see from this letter that the total was really 450 or whatever. And so that's the reason for the data errata letters, and it's put right in the Wise Admin portal so that you can, again, keep track of everything in one place. The, um, the, the app can be assigned to your personnel that you might want to do that data errata in your place. And so if that's the case, if you want to delegate that function to someone else, you can certainly do that, and you would just give them the proper role in the Wise Admin Portal app, and they'd be able to do the data errata letter submission from there. There is supposed to be in here, and I'm not seeing it, the library submission. And I don't see that. So let me pop back over into we're in the test environment and they might be testing something and they might have it offline for a moment. So I'll talk about it through this slide right here. So the district library plan is also done from the Wise Admin Portal app. It used to be, prior to that, maybe like 2-3 school years ago, it was done, the data was collected a different method through some sort of an online form, I think. And it's been collected in some way or another since 1974 when the law was passed. Basically, you submit your library plan information in the format that's on the screen. It's super simple. You have the date that your board approved. This is for public districts, by the way. Any choice schools, you don't have to worry about this. This is only for public districts. But you put the date of your board approval, the years that it's in effect for, name, email, and the link, the URL to the plan, and then just hit save, and boom, you're done. It's not super hard. And then in the app, you can view the plan if you want to. That information goes to the DPI library team, and they take care of that. Whatever they need to do to satisfy the statutory requirements. So, and again, we put that in the Wise Admin portal so that you have the opportunity to keep tabs on all that stuff in one place. And I'm fairly certain that the district library plan doesn't happen every year for every district. I think that it's a multi-year thing, so it may not come up for you each and every year, but you can always go in there and review it if you'd like to. And I apologize, it's not on the test screen here, but it should be on there. And there I've gone through the Wise Admin portal, which I hope was helpful. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have questions about anything about snapshots or about um, data reporting in general or anything at all? I was like, Johnny Carson used to do Stump the Band. I always like to put myself on the line like that and see if people can stump me. Well, one other thing I'd like to talk about is the school directory app. And school directory is basically database information, if you want to think of it that way. But there's a lot to it. It's everything from the address and name of each school to the contact people that are associated either with a district or with a school or both. It has the mailing address, shipping address for each school. There's just a ton of information in the school directory. It's a massive database. There's a public facing side to it as well. Um, and uh, and that's pretty cool too. The redesign of that was done within the last few years is pretty nice. You have the ability as a district to go in and update much of the information that's in school directory, and we ask that happens each school year, as you might expect, right on top of everything else you need to do, right? And so we do have a little bit of outreach in regards to that. There's certain things that come into school directory that are required by state statute. Some things that uh, for public schools that have to do with kindergarten information, for example, or school counselor information, school nurses, things like that. For private schools, the PI 1207 private school report is housed in the school directory app, and that's a statutory requirement as well. So it is important to go in there and look at that each fall to make sure that everything that needs to be done is done. And when you go to your home page in the school directory app, you won't have to select a district like I'm doing. It'll take you to your page. And again, if you joined us late, this is all, we're in the test system here, but this is all, the school directory is all public facing data for the most part. So there's not really anything in here that's, that's sensitive. But what you can do is based on the way things are structured here in these tiles, you can go in and edit the different types of information. The basic information is just that. It's pretty basic. Some of this you can't edit. So if your school district name changed, like if your school board changed your school district name or something like that, that would be something that would need to be done in a help ticket. Same thing with a school name. That happens a lot more frequently. I can't remember district name changing recently. Sometimes they merge, but anyway, school names change fairly frequently. And so if that's the case, you just send in a help ticket and have us change that school name. But some of the things you can edit yourself, like the low grade and high grade that are served, for example, whether or not the pre-kindergarten educational services offered, things like that. Um, the contact information is another big one that gets updated here. The kindergarten schedule I mentioned for public districts, addresses, and so on. So there's a lot to edit in there. That is all uh, able to be delegated to your staff. I wouldn't expect a district administrator to have to go in and do that. You certainly can if you want to, but most often we see that done through a staff that was given a user role for the school directory app. But it's important to note in this group because of the importance of it, just to make sure that it's being updated. And one thing that's really important is we have the public facing version of school directory, which looks like this. And pretty much everything that gets updated here in the application gets then transferred over here to the public version. So if something is not right, that might not be something that you want to have facing the public, so you might want to get that corrected. Also, the public directory can be very useful if you need to look up a contact person from another district. Maybe you need to reach out to another district or to a choice school or what have you, and you should be able to find that contact information here on the public-facing directory. The directory has some really cool features, including maps. I really like the maps of the school district boundaries. It tells each school that's in the district. It has what districts are nearby. It even tells what legislative district you're in, what public libraries are nearby. There's all kinds of really neat information in the public directory. So if you haven't had the chance to check that out, you can bring up your district or your choice school in there and check it out and see what the public sees when they look that up. But that's the reason, one of the biggest reasons why we want to make sure that all of our data is updated in the school directory app, because we want to make sure that when the public goes in and tries to look something up, that it's correct. Also, we want to make sure that anything that's required by state statute to be entered into there is entered into there, of course. And so that's a look at the school directory app. Any questions about that? And then, are there any questions about anything at all related to the wonderful world of WISE?
I know you mentioned that it's up to each individual district to make a determination of who has access to what, but do you have, in general, what roles should have access to which applications?
That's an excellent question. Um, Generally speaking, yes. So if you have whoever at your district or your school is going to be doing the working of the errors and warnings in WISE data. So going to I'm going to put this more in the scope of looking at the data snapshot. That's what I'm most familiar with, but it really would apply to any application. The special ed apps or what have you. The personnel that are going to be doing the work are going to need the user roles. If the person is is working on the WISE data submission, and they're going to be working the errors and warnings, or they're going to be in your sys sending the data to WISE data or what have you, the WISE data portal app and the agency role is a hugely important one to have. Another important app that goes along with that is WISE ID. Let me go back to the WISE Secure so I can show you this as I talk about it. The WISE ID app basically assigns WISE IDs. It's the 10-digit number that identifies a student or staff member uniquely in the database, and it's important to be able to have the ability to go in and look at that app when it's needed. So the WISE ID app, and it has multiple user roles. I suggest the admin role because that gives them the full functionality of not only being able to assign WISE IDs to new students, but to look up existing students that maybe have come to your district or your school from elsewhere, and also to work what we call change requests. So if a piece of information associated with a student needs to change, like their name or their birth date or something like that, due to an error or a name change or what have you, the admin role will allow them full functionality to be able to do that. The other roles are available in case you have personnel who maybe don't need that full access, and maybe you just want them to pop in there and view things or what have you. But I suggest that admin role because it does give them the full functionality to do all the tasks associated with the WISE ID process. Another application that's a lot more important beginning with the present school year than it has been in the past is the EdFi credential app. In the past, once you subscribed to your sys vendor product or products, if you have a third-party vendor, you may have more than one subscription. That was pretty much it. Unless you changed vendors, you were pretty much set to just leave that alone. EdFi has changed things so that now, beginning with the 25-26 school year, every single district and choice school is going to need to go in and resubscribe to their sys vendor, and then any third party like special ed vendors or anything that you may have subscriptions to, finance vendors, things like that. And again, that's a new change for the 25-26 school year. And so you may want to then have more personnel than you have in the past, with user roles for the EdFi credential app. Because of that, you might want to, for example, delegate that task to an IT person, or maybe a sys specialist at your district, or maybe you want to tackle that, be hands-on and do that yourself. Totally up to you. But there's only the one user role in this case, so that makes it a little easier. That's the edit user role, but that allows the person to go in and do that subscription that I mentioned each school year. And it might be, if nothing changed, it might be as simple as just checking the box saying nothing changed and then resubscribing. But then you're going to have to go into your sysvendor tool and take the new key and secret and put it in there, so that you have the data flow happening. And that's where sometimes the sys specialist or the IT person come in handy. But that's a new feature for the current school year, and one that's going to make this EdFi credential app a little more important than maybe it has been in the past. Another app that's relatively new is the Early Read app. That has to do with the Act 20 law that was passed with the early readers. And as DSA, when you're set up as DSA, you automatically get a user role for all of the DPI apps, including the Early Read app, including Wise Data Portal and Wise ID and all the ones we talked about, Wise Grants and all those. As the DSA, you get a user role for all of those apps, not just the ability to assign roles, but also a user role for all those apps. But if you want to assign that Early Read app to other personnel at your district, you can do that. Data entry is the role to do. You will not see probably developer. I think that's only because I'm in our test environment. So again, it makes it easy when you only have just the one user role, but data entry. But you're probably going to want to have people looking at that Early Read app. There are the different special ed applications. I'm not as familiar with those because they don't directly relate to the WISE data submission, but um, uh, obviously special ed personnel mainly would be involved with those. Let's see if there's WISE Dash. Anybody who is doing the work in WISE Data Portal, I also recommend that you give them a role for WISE Dash for districts. This is for public districts. Some choice schools don't have the ability to use the WISE Dash tool. The reason I say that they should have a user role is that we do a lot of data verification in WISE Dash for districts. When the data comes into WISE data, it goes to a repository database, then it goes through our verification validation process. rather, validations, and then it ends up in the WISE data database. And then every night, WISE data updates WISE dash. And the snapshot is taken from WISE dash. So that's why we say that it's important to have personnel in there verifying that the data is correct in WISE dash, because that is where the snapshot is taken from. Choice schools have a little bit different way to do that verification. They have an Excel spreadsheet, that series of Excel spreadsheets in the WISE data portal that show you the WISE dash data. But for public districts, it's important that you have some people that can do that data verification. And we recommend the economic indicator analyst role for that. The reason we do that is because if you use the student detail analyst or the summary analyst, they're not going to be able to verify all of the data. The economic indicator analyst role will allow them to verify, well, the economically disadvantaged counts for one thing, and also the homeless data, and some other data that wouldn't be available to them to verify if they had a different user role. So there are dashboards in the WISE Dash for Districts tool that are specifically designed to help verify data for the snapshot. So we definitely suggest that people that are in WISE Data Portal doing the errors and warnings, working with those, also have the ability to pop into WISE Dash and do the data verification there, because that's where the snapshot is being taken from, is WISE Dash. So that's kind of an important one. I think those are the highlights. There are some others, WISE Data Finance and WISFIP. I'm not qualified to answer questions about. Though that's the finance side of things, the PI 1563 and the membership, things like that. That's not something that I personally have been trained on. I can help with access questions. So if somebody can't get logged in, or there's a problem with assigning the user role to one of those or something like that, I help out with those questions. But the school financial services team at DPI deals with the actual applications themselves. But they're very important, and so I thought I'd mention them because of their importance. And WISE grants kind of falls into that same bucket. It's a very important app, but it's one that's handled by a different team at DPI as far as the help desk type questions that come in. But if there is a question with access, somebody can't get logged in, something like that, I'll help with those types of questions for WISE grants. But then the program area will take care of the help desk type questions for that. But that's an important app too. And so I want to make sure I mention that. Probably going to want to have plenty of staff that know how to do WISE grants and know how to do WISFIP and WISE data finance. I hope I covered that, but let me know if you still have any questions about those, or if I dropped the ball and didn't answer your question at all.
Oh, thank you. That works.
Great. And if you're in there working and a question does come up, just let me know. I'm always happy to answer questions. Anything else anybody would like to know about related to WISE data, data reporting, snapshots, anything like that? All right. Well, I hope that this session was helpful. And like I said, if you think of a question after we're done here, just let me know. Let me put my email address in the chat, and feel free to to reach out to me anytime with any question you might have related to WISE data and data reporting and I can't talk and type at the same time, so I apologize for that. Anything to do with WISE data, data reporting, WISE IDs, WISE Secure, any of that stuff. If I can't answer the question, I'll find somebody who can. So feel free to reach out to me for any of those types of questions. And I'll keep myself available here for a few minutes. If you think of another question, jump in and shout at me. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful school year. And if we can help in any way, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.